Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is right here, everyone. Welcome back for some more SPTV. Guys, the Cardone brothers aren't in prison yet. Emphasis on yet. You did know there's two of them, right? I'm talking about Grant Cardone and Gary Cardone. One of them's a little more famous. One of them takes a little bit more steroids. One of them's a little bit more of a fraudster. But there really are two peas in a pod. They're both high-level Scientologists. You know, on my channel, I talk about Grant mainly from the perspective of covering him on the Scientology angle. I happen to be familiar with finance. I happen to be involved in real estate. It's not why I talk about Grant. I would talk about Grant even if he was involved in his business didn't involve finance or real estate. I talk about him because he's one of the primary funders, enablers, and recruiters for the international human trafficking cult known as Scientology. The fact that he also happens to be a fraudster and a con man and is involved in industries that I'm familiar with, that's just icing on the cake, guys. That's just good fortune. I mean, that's just luck. So I've done a lot of Grant Cardone videos on my channel. But last night, for the first time, I actually spoke on the phone with an investor in Cardone Capital. I've had a bunch of emails with Cardone Capital investors. I've had a bunch of emails and phone calls with employees of Cardone's various businesses, but I've never actually had a lengthy phone conversation with an actual investor and someone who's invested millions of dollars with Cardone. And the person hasn't asked to be named. I'm not gonna name the person, but Cardone will know who I'm talking about. And what was amazing to me, well, I don't want to preempt my own story here. I'm just going to pull up the notes from the phone call. This guy's story just solidifies in my mind that Cardone is doing something extremely dirty. And the feds aren't investigating Cardone Capital for no reason. I am privy to what it is that was the spark for the FBI investigation into Cardone Capital. But after that, the information trail goes dark. I mean, even the Cardone Capital insiders who made that spark that ignited the FBI investigation, even those guys aren't kept in the loop on what the FBI is doing. And for all I know, the investigation's over. I mean, I would have no way of knowing. But after talking to this investor last night, I'm like, no, there's no way the FBI investigation into Cardone Capital is over. And the feds are already up the Cardone's butts because of Gary Cardone's fraudulent company called Chargebacks 911. That has the FTC has gone after this company for helping commit hundreds of millions of dollars of fraud. And everyone the FTC has gone after, every one of Gary Cardone's clients has rolled over and cooperated. And there's only one reason in my mind they would be doing that, because they're helping the feds come after Gary. Well, where you have Gary, you have Grant. These two guys are, well, they're identical twins, but they're also attached at the hip, professionally, business-wise, etc. So let me just go over some of the notes here. So this is an investor out of San Francisco. I'm going to say a retirement age gentleman. In fact, that's why he decided to invest in Cardone Capital in the first place. Is he'd cashed out of his business. Sounded like he and his wife were essentially in retirement. They like real estate. They wanted to be in real estate. They wanted to be in real estate in Texas and Florida in the South. They had ended up attending one of Grant Cardone's growth conferences, I guess growth conferences, and the pitch worked, and they invested. And what's interesting is that this investor, it's not like Cardone Capital is the only real estate investment that this guy is in. He's invested with another firm out of Dallas. And he goes, the difference is night and day between his experience as an investor in the Dallas firm and in the Cardone Capital firm. He's like, in the Dallas firm, you get all the disclosure you could ever want and more. It's almost too much disclosure. The transparency is absolute. All the financials, all the expenses, all the revenue streams, everything you want, you get it. and you get it quarterly. And he goes, with Grant, what you get with Grant is an annual statement that's not even an annual statement. Doesn't list the assets, doesn't list the liabilities. There's no P&L. There's no rent revenues listed. There's no expenses listed. They net everything out from an operations perspective. They don't list the purchase price of the properties. They only list the loan value on the loan amount on the properties. They don't tell you what it was actually purchased for. Here's the income. Here's the management fee. And one of the things this guy said, he goes, as an investor, we're members of the LLC that owns the property. And the disclosure in the deal is that as a member of the LLC, we're entitled to see the books. And Grant refuses to show us the books. We've demanded to see the books, and he will not let us see them. He said that the response we get is, you've already received everything you're entitled to receive. And in fact, on one of the recent investor calls, of which I think they're every month, and there's like, thousands of people on these calls. In the chat, he actually asked this guy, this San Francisco-based investor, he asked in the live chat, what is the deal with us not being able to see the books? He was booted off of the investor call. This investor has $2 million into Cardone Capital across 4 separate deals. So what's really interesting is that this investor said, I said, so tell me what's going on with distributions. What's the quality, the status of the distributions? He goes, I got to tell you, I got to give Grant credit. When it comes to the distributions, he delivers. We get some people give distributions quarterly. We get distributions every month on the 15th of the month, like clockwork. And the distributions are more or less what was expected. He goes, the distributions vary across each of the 4 deals, but he goes, it's generally on an annualized return basis, you're getting about 5% to 8% return on the deal. And I said, this is incredible. I go, so you're not even dissatisfied with the performance of your investment? And he goes, no. I said, well, why the hell are you asking for your money back? And he said, we're just out of alignment. We're not aligned anymore. That's what I said to him. And he said, I spoke to Grant directly. I said, look, we're just not aligned anymore. We don't want to be in business with you anymore. Essentially, we don't trust what's going on. And it's not good enough. I actually really respect him saying this. It's not good enough that we're just getting the return on the money that is more or less in line with what we expected. We don't have trust in the process. And he was talking to Grant personally, and Grant said, okay, look, if you have to do this, if you really got to take your money out, he goes, no, we don't have to take our money out. We want to take our money out. And Grant said, okay, all right, well, talk to Ryan. And Ryan's like Grant's number 1 guy in the real estate biz. And the investor told me he spoke to Ryan for months. Months went by, and Grant refused to buy out their stake. Now, this investor also said to me that on some of these calls, you've got Brandon Dawson chiming in regularly in the background of, oh man, I just wish I could own a piece of one of these deals. I wish I'd bought into one of these deals before it was sold out. And this investor is sitting here going, what are you talking about, Brandon? You can buy my stake in this deal for exactly what I paid for it X number of years ago. I forgot to ask him exactly how many years ago he invested. It sounded like it was 3 or more. And well, that's what I wanted to say. He's only asking, he bought in for just under 2 million, and he just wants to cash out. He goes, on these investor calls, Grant is constantly saying that these properties are worth 2, 3, 4, 5 times more now than they were previously. So anybody should be killing themselves for the opportunity to buy my stake of the deal for the same dollar value I bought in at in the beginning. But nobody over there in Cardone land, not Ryan, not Grant, not Brandon, no one is willing to buy him out. Now, I said, look, I've been in touch with some other people who've succeeded in getting their money back from Cardone Capital. They did in each case have to sue. And, if you wanted to go that route, it would probably work. And I said, but I got to tell you, the fact that he's refusing to show you the books, that sounds like a grounds for some type of suit. I don't know what the complaint is. I'm not a lawyer. I grew up in a cult, guys. What do I know? But it does sound like some type of a suit. And he goes, yeah, I mean, there's definitely avenues that we could pursue like that. And he said, but look, I actually took some of the videos that you did, you meaning me. So I've done videos exposing some of the fraud over at Cardone Capital, where Grant Cardone is double or triple dipping, depending on how you want to define it, where he does not disclose to his investors the actual purchase price. And that's because Grant himself front runs his investors on buying the deal. Right? He locks up a property at a particular price. He sells it to his investors at a much inflated price, pockets the difference, which would be perfectly legal if it was disclosed, but this isn't disclosed. Pockets the difference. But because he's pocketing the difference, he has an incentive to buy the property essentially from himself. He's acting as his own wholesaler, right? So he takes a 1% acquisition fee from the investor funds on the purchase price the investors are charged. So not only is he incentivized to sell it to his investors for the highest possible price, but he's literally pocketing the difference in the meantime. He goes, I took your videos and I sent them to Grant. And I said, look, these are allegations. I find them credible. I want to see the books. And that's when Grant and his people said, nope, you've seen everything you're entitled to see. Do you guys think this has anything to do with why the FBI is investigating Cardone Capital? Because I sure as hell do. And when you have investors who are asking for their money back, even though they're getting the returns they expected, that has to raise some red flags. And I said, you know, it's interesting that you are getting the returns. I mean, I respect the hell out of the fact that you are getting the returns you expected, and you still sense that something is not right. And he goes, he goes, my wife and I were watching the Bernie Madoff documentary on Netflix. And he said, we're watching the whole thing. And the whole time we're just looking at each other going, this is Grant Cardone. This is Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone is a salesman, not a businessman. He's a salesman, not an investor. He's always selling you on something. He's a fast talker. He always has an answer for everything. He'll tell you whatever you want to hear to get from you, what he wants to get from you. He goes, we just don't trust it. You know who else had great returns for a really long time? Bernie Madoff. And you guys, just for my own personal, so you know where I'm coming from, I've never accused Grant Cardone of running a Ponzi scheme, because I don't have any evidence of that. I've never actually heard anyone accuse Cardone Capital of being a Ponzi scheme. But I'm not saying he's not running one. And let's see. What else do I have here on my notes? Yeah, it's funny. He goes, just as far as Grant always changing his story. Grant's been saying he's going to sell his whole fund to like Blackstone, and it's going to be everyone's big payday. And he's always saying, I could sell this property for 3x what I bought it for right now to Goldman Sachs today. And it's like, then do it, or shut the F up about it. Right. And someone's like, hey, whatever on one of the calls, someone's like, hey, Grant, whatever happened to one of those Blackstone deal? He was like, oh, maybe we'll just become the next Blackstone. It's like, yeah. So anyway, I asked him, I said, where exactly is the lack of alignment? And the lack of alignment was just the lack of trust, transparency, accountability, just always telling a new story. They just didn't trust him anymore. Pretty incredible, right? So I don't know. Considering that if Grant's whole spiel was true and correct about the performance of these properties and how much they're worth, Grant should want, fake billionaire Grant Cardone should want to buy an investor out at the same price the investor bought in 3 years ago or more. It would literally be printing money to buy a position at the price that was paid 3 years ago, if you believe the hype about the appreciation of these assets. And that's what it comes down to. Grant Cardone is just a hype man. He's not a real portfolio manager. He's not a real investor. He's not a real businessman. He's a hype man. And hype can get you pretty far, but it can only get you so far. That is pretty much all I wanted to say. Let me see a couple comments here. Paula Puffer, thanks for sharing this information. Well, thanks for watching, Paula. Lino 1, Bernie Madoff, Ponzi, maybe. Who knows? That's up to the FBI and the SEC and the FTC. And, you know, as far as I know, those wheels are still rolling, but we don't know for sure. What we do know right now is that the FTC is all up in Gary Cardone's business. You know, I believe Gary Cardone was the seed money for Cardone Capital. I know Grant Cardone tells a different story, but the story Grant Cardone tells is not true. So I feel like it really is only a matter of time before the feds crack this nut open and the story gets a whole lot more interesting. Debbie says, Aaron, I sent you an email regarding Kara. Thank you, Debbie. I will check it out. All right, everybody. We'll see. It's already 5 o'clock in the evening. Not sure if I've got any more to do today. I have a lot more to do. Just don't know if I'm going to get to it today. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not,